poorly painted studios in Cumming, Georgia, this is the Chuck and Z Show. And now, here's Chuck and Z.
Overlay, Sharon.
Yay.
No, click the
All
eye.
good.
Click the
All
eye on
good.
the overlay. It's all good.
Hey guys, we're
Click
here.
the eyeball.
We're here. We're about to be seen.
There you go.
We're about to be
Now
seen.
you got to click over that one.
Here we are. We're here.
That's okay. Congratulations. First day as a producer of the Chuck and Z Show. Welcome to the experience, Sharon.
Thanks for being so patient.
Oh, I 100% knew that was going to happen. Like as I was walking her through the overlays and all that, I kept going back and forth on it. So I was like, I confused her.
No,
I know I confused her.
Next time.
She's got it. She's a
Well-
fast learner.
Well, welcome to the show, everybody. Of course, I'm Chuck.
I'm Z.
And today with us, we have Scott Moulton. Now, Scott is a friend of mine. He's also a friend of ours. He's a writer. He's got a very interesting career. We've talked a lot about it over cigars and whiskey. And so I thought it would be an interesting conversation to have him come join us. And Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we love having you here, man. I've been excited about getting you on the show for a while. So obviously, we all met kind of because of the Litas.
Yes.
So we're husbands of the Litas. What do you call us?
Litos.
Litos. That's,
We need to get you some shirts.
why do I immediately want to rhyme everything? As soon as you said that, I was like, that's neato.
Litos or Nito.
I'm such a kid. But yeah, so we met that way, and then we've ridden a few times together. Scott's a great rider. He's a little bit more tame than I am, but he's a
Very
great
much more tame than you are.
Welcome to the show, Scott.
Well, thank you. I don't want to get a ticket every turn either. So
I hear you.
You know,
I hear
that's so I'm a little slower rider most of the time.
You're a great
Not that I
rider.
need to be, but you know,
You're a safe rider.
Yep.
How
So-
about that?
And I did get pulled over once in Colorado, and my buddy Terry was with me, and we had gone around some traffic and crossed some lines, and I talked my way out of the ticket, and he still got it.
He got one?
So
Lucky you.
yeah,
Well-
Must have been that badge.
Oh, that's true.
well, I mean, I have a private investigator badge.
They were interested.
I don't have an officer badge. I'm not an officer.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's,
Well, obviously, since we're talking about riding, let's jump into that. What do you ride, Scott?
I have an Indian. I have a Harley V-Rod, and I have a BMW 1200 off-road.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I didn't know you had a V-Rod.
I didn't know you had a
Yeah.
V-Rod either.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've had a V-Rod longer than I've had the Indian. The Indian's the newest bike, and that one's 9 years old.
Oh, wow.
So,
So what year is
oh
the
no,
Indi-
I do have a 2014. It's a 2014.
Okay.
It's a 2014 Chieftain, but my my BMW is also a 2014.
Okay.
Gotcha. What year is your V-Rod?
2011.
Nice. Was it the old school or the muscle version or the?
It's the Night Rod,
The Night
which
Rod.
is just
Gotcha.
shy of the muscle version, but I pulled all the mirrors off of a muscle and put them on.
Nice.
And made it look like that. I just don't have the front cut in like a muscle does, but it's the same engine as the muscle.
Yeah.
And it's darkened. And then I've basically plastic dipped the whole thing black, so I don't like any of the other colors, so it kind of looks
Yeah.
like it just came off a movie set everywhere
Yeah.
I go.
Yeah.
Did you see his V-Rod muscle when he had
I've never seen it, but he's told me he like maxed it out and
Yeah.
destroyered it and the whole
it?
thing.
Yeah, it's
so,
blacked out.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
did.
Pretty sweet.
So it's funny. I like the color scheme on the Nightster, or the Night Rod,
Yep.
way more than the Nightster. I think that's the new Sportsters.
It
Yeah,
is.
it's a new Sportster.
Yeah, on the Night Rod, way more than I liked the color scheme on the Muscle. Although I did like the denim, but I wanted the
Yeah.
engine blacked out.
Right.
And then I had the opportunity to do so, and I blacked that thing out front to back. I mean, the rims, every bit of chrome, it was just
Yep.
jet black front
Yep.
to back.
Yeah, mine's all black.
Yeah.
And now the whole thing's black because it's actually yellow, but plastic dip makes it all black.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
So
No, I think there's something about just an all black bike. It just looks
Right.
so good. I mean, I had one for a long time, so that's why we're doing a little bit more color now. But
Yeah.
I loved that bike.
Yep.
It's hard. I don't ever see you on it. Do you ever get on it?
I don't ride the other two quite as often. I did some off-roading for a while, and it was the best day and the worst day motorcycling for me. I came off the bike and I snapped my shoulder. So,
Holy cow.
so I broke my collarbone doing some off-roading up in Hiawassee, and so I don't spend a lot of time off-roading too much anymore. And then the V-Rod, it's just most of the time. So my V-Rod's naked. I don't have any bags. I don't have anything on it, so I can't carry anything.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more difficult to go on some of the places that we're going where I need to carry stuff for my wife or other
Right.
stuff. So
Yeah.
so there's always something that needs to be in the bag somewhere. So
One thing that I did to mine that wasn't very common is I put a Budman riser on it. Have you ever seen those?
Mm-mm.
It actually lifts it up 2 inches and brings it back almost 2 full inches. So instead of being so hung over on the bike, you get to sit up a little bit more.
okay.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It comes in a machine, solid aluminum piece. It's pretty cool. I think you can still find them online.
And it goes like on the forks or something. Where's it go?
Yeah, it's like a riser. You literally
okay.
put it. I guess actually, when you think about it, it's more of a spacer, I guess. But,
Right.
But it worked really, really, really well.
So I did do that for my BMW. My BMW, I rose it almost 2 inches, and so I can actually stand up and still hold the handlebars while I'm riding. So
Yeah.
that it does make a difference from that standpoint. But I haven't had a lot of problems with my V-Rod from that standpoint.
Yeah.
I would have never known that your Indian was that old
Yeah, it's almost 9 years old now.
because it looks immaculate. You keep that bike clean.
Yeah,
That isn't 2014 to me is not old though.
It's 9 years on a vehicle.
Yeah.
9 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have some. So I have to put a tank bag on it when I travel because I travel cross country a lot, and so we just leave every year. Me and a buddy of mine travel, and we typically leave for 30 days. So we just go for a month, the month of August usually. And I put a tank bag on the front of it because I'm used to the tank bag on my BMW, and so it's nice to have water and other items right there in front of you while you're riding on a long trip.
Yeah.
And so so I do keep iced water and stuff in there with a tube so I can drink out of it. But they have magnets that are attached to the tank, and those do gradually eat away
At
at
your
your
tank.
bike. And if you want to look for what makes it look older, that's where you look. You look
Okay.
on the tank where the two magnets touch, and
Got it.
that will eat away at it.
Yeah.
So the vibrations do damage.
For sure.
I saw one of your most recent additions to the bike, I think, online. There's like a spaceship you put on the back for your dog.
Yes. So they used to make these, and we saw somebody with an Indian actually that had a small one, a little tiny one. It looked like about a lunchbox size, and they had a baby dog about your size, and it fit in the back of their thing pretty easily. And so I went online and I started looking for it. They've been discontinued for like 15 years, but they literally look like a spaceship that came from the 1950s. And you put it on the back of the bike. And this one's pretty big. This one's about as big as it gets, I guess.
It looked like an apartment.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an apartment. It's an
It's so
apartment. It's pretty
cute.
big. And so basically it's a spaceship that the dog can ride in. And it has the whole curved front end and a back door and it's all metal, so it's all aluminum. And it has grates out the side. So it looks a little bit like one of them rockets, like the lava rockets and things like that. It looks a little bit like that, but
Bubbly.
flat. Yeah, bubbly.
Bubbly.
So far he loved it. He was very happy with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious though, is the dog strapped in it?
Nope.
So like, what if you have to stop? Like, is it going to be like?
Well, obviously, if you have when you have a person on the back of your bike and you're riding with the person, you ride a little more graciously.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you don't. But I did.
No, I'm like, y'all better hold on. We're
if
going for a ride.
Yeah. So if my wife's on the back, I take care of it. Like it's a care package. I try to make sure that she's well taken care of, and we're not having emergency stopping or anything. I'm way
I
more
gotcha.
liberal from a standpoint of making sure that I'm not having to put my foot on that brake a lot.
Yeah.
So I do kind of the same thing with the dog, because the dog has ridden in the front in a pouch with me before,
Yeah.
but he's gained some weight. So I guess it'll be a little more difficult when they're bigger.
He's getting to be a fatty.
Not fat, but he was only supposed to be his mom. It was only 12 pounds, and his dad was only 5 pounds. So he was only supposed to be about an 8-pound dog, and he's about 16 pounds.
Whoa.
Yep. So
Wow,
he's a peekapoo. So he's grown.
Yeah.
quite
He's a cute dog.
He is cute, but he is ferocious.
Oh yeah.
He turns into
This-
Cujo.
This thing was the runt.
Yeah. She's only 7 pounds, and she's ridden on, like she has a harness and
Harness, like a What are the baby Bjorn? What are those things called?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And
A
she has
kangaroo
doggos.
pouch.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go, marsupials again. And then on Chuck's bike, but she doesn't really go on rides anymore.
No.
She's getting old.
She's too skittish now.
Well, plus if you guys stop, then it's like
Right? We had a friend of ours that used to carry his dog around everywhere. Haven't talked to that guy in a long time, but I think one day he got in a wreck, and it took him like a couple of days to find the dog
yeah.
because she was in like this little thing in the back and just went gone whenever he wrecked.
Yep. We did have a friend that flipped in a car on the way through Mont Eagle up through Tennessee on the way home one day, and the dog got thrown from the vehicle, and it lived, but it took like 3 weeks before anybody figured out where the
Where
dog
it
was
was.
and go
Wow.
pick it up. So we kept going back to the area and trying to help him out and find the dog, and we did eventually find the dog. So
Wow.
it did work out, but that's probably rare.
Yeah, I would say it is.
So, Indian, was there a particular reason why you went with Indian, or is it just what you prefer?
So the V-Rod is the only Harley I ever saw that I really liked. I'm not really a huge Harley fan. I had a Triumph at the time also. I had bought a brand new Triumph, and I probably would have stuck with the Triumph, the Steve McQueen, I would have probably just stuck with the Triumph, but eventually it ended up being the bike I rode the least, and so I sold that to a friend of mine, and then I had more room in the garage, and so I bought the Indian. I really loved the Indian, and the first time I rode the Indian, it was just amazing. Because I probably would have bought a Victory, but I was right there at the cusp of whether I'd buy a Victory, and then they came out with the Indian. So,
Yeah.
Right.
so it just had that look and everything I wanted about it. But you know, outside of because I already had the V-Rod at that point, so
Right.
I wasn't gonna kind of go down the Harley path again from that standpoint. That's not my favorite.
Yeah.
Still have a little rough time sometimes with some Harley, because my friends all ride with Harleys, and when we're traveling, they're the only ones that break down.
Really?
Yes, that's the only time I take my tools out, is to help all my
Dang.
friends fix their bikes.
That's true. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna knock on some wood,
I haven't.
but I
that
haven't had those
experience.
issues, and I ride a lot, like 15,000, 20,000 miles a year. But we do have friends that break down a lot, and you've been there. We've had
Yeah.
to like jump them and all that kind of stuff. So it is kind of, I don't know. I think there's issues with any kind of bike if you don't maintain them properly and things like that. So
Well, all my friends have maintained all these bikes, but we go on one of the other things is on the Indian, I've gone to full synthetic, and I get 10,000 miles before I have to do an oil change.
yeah.
These guys, even though that technically it's supposed to be 5,000-6,000, they're doing it at 3 because they keep getting recommendations that they need to start doing it at 3,000 miles. We're on 6,000, 7,000 mile trips, so they have to stop. They all have to stop and have oil changes done on their trips. I go the
You're
whole
like,
trip.
I'm going
I
the
make the
whole
whole trip. No oil. I'm like,
It's-
sorry, buddy.
It's just so funny. Like, all right, so we have a very similar experience in how we got introduced to Harley at all, because that's how I got into them, was through the V-Rod. I rode sport bikes, and then the V-Rod came out, and I was like, that is a Harley I could ride. And then I got on it, and I loved it, and it was just kind of a natural progression for me to build up the lowrider, which is really when I was thinking about a different type of bike. I was
Yeah.
actually looking at a DFL I'm going to say it wrong, Panigale. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. I was looking at those too, for my next bike, but I started kind of looking at the lowriders because she was looking at one. I'm not sure what turned you on to them, but you.
Because they were similar to like the Dyna style.
Yeah,
I like that
yeah,
style.
you like the Dyna style. And so I built it up, and then it just seemed like a natural progression for me to go to the performance packers, because that's what was kind of coming out whenever I was looking for something new to do, and they look so sharp and they're so fun to ride. But so my thing is I'm a fan of bikes. I don't care what kind of motorcycle you ride. There's Indians that I look at. Dark horses are nice.
Yeah.
That Scrambler is ridiculous. If I could have every bike on the planet, I'd have every bike on the planet. But I gotta kind of limit it a little bit. They're expensive. Don't know if you know that.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're expensive.
I did not know that when I first started riding.
How expensive they were.
And then like all the gear and just like all the modifications that you need to do to the bike to make it your own. I'm like, Wow.
I mean, the bike's not as expensive as the
Exactly. Exactly.
most of the time. By the time you're done, it's definitely more time and more effort in the modifications. And
Yeah.
and when I bought the Indian, there were no you couldn't buy anything. It was brand new on the market. There was nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and so I spent like the first year making my own stuff.
Wow.
So my own trunk, my own pieces, my own stuff until, eventually I'm on my third set of pipes, I think. So,
Okay.
Oh wow.
but
And so before I want to go there, because obviously you do kind of cool stuff like that, like crafting things, and I want to talk about that too. But I guess I had another point I wanted to make.
With
Lost
the
it.
Harley and the loving all bikes.
Yeah, it was something like that. Daggum it, I lost it.
Why you got on the
It
Harley
happens.
train? Nope.
No. I think I was just. I know what I was going to say. It's just funny how everybody has such a different approach to motorcycles, different motivations, different reasons for doing it. Like everything you just said, I think is probably accurate and true, and I believe it. But I don't think about any of that at all ever. I don't think about. I'm going to switch to synthetic because I'm going to go this many miles today. I don't think of the motorcycle in that way. I think of it as it's a thing that I like to get on and ride. I think I like to go on some long rides, but it's not my primary thing. But since you do it a lot, it makes sense that like you would think of what's most important to you in a motor. It's like, for instance, if a Harley breaks down, that's kind of fun. Like when they break down, it's like
is it fun?
It is kind of like at the moment you're kind of like that's But
so
then,
I have had some fun moments because a Harley broke down, but I don't know the people that the Harley broke
it
down.
sucks at the moment.
We did have so me and my buddy Terry, we ride a lot. We're the primary two riders that ride together. He's a little older than me. He's 15 years older than me, and we've been going for 7 years now, like every year for weeks. And we went to Sturgis the first time, I think like 2016 maybe, that he had been many times, and that's my first time. And we were staying in Deadwood up on the top of a mountain in a chalet. And we were going up the mountain at like 11 o'clock at night after we'd gone to Sturgis, and his bike breaks down going up the mountain.
No.
Like we couldn't even get up the mountain.
It's so dark.
Yeah,
at
it was
that
very dark. It's dark as dark. I mean,
Yeah.
right? Because there's no lights anywhere. You
Right.
can't see the moon, nothing. So.
Exactly.
And he's rolling back down the hill, and this guy comes out of his, I guess, kind of like a mobile home, a house out there, and it turns out that he's the tow truck driver for the area. And he said, just pull your bike up over here, and their keys are in the car. Just go ahead and take any car you want and just take off. And, just come back tomorrow and we'll take your bike in to Harley and have it like I mean, so those have been some kind of fun, and the guy
That's
took care of
crazy.
us. It was really amazing. I was just like, just take the keys, take
I
the
know.
car,
That
take
would've been super-
whatever. They were all like super, super nice, gracious about everything. It was
That's cool.
fantastic. He drove him around everywhere on the back of his flatbed till he got his Harley fixed. So, but that took a whole day.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I guess we're lucky it was only a day, because some of the other trips we've been on, it hasn't been just a day. The breakdowns have been more severe than that. So
Yeah. So when you go to Sturgis, do you go during the rally or do you go outside of the rally?
both. Sometimes we'll go earlier, or sometimes we'll figure out a path in, and then usually we'll stay and go later, because the rally's still only like 10 days, so we're going for 30. So
Yeah.
we go up and ride in Montana and then come back down. We tend to always pass back through Colorado because it's our favorite place to ride, but
Yeah.
we go all over. So I've only got 2 states I haven't been to yet, so the rest of them I've covered them somehow, one way or
Wow.
another. So, but we love riding like the Montana, Wyoming area, Colorado, any of that, and so we'll just take those extra days and go those ways and try to figure out how to come back.
So how many miles are you putting down a year?
Well, the trips are normally about 6,000. So on average, we're typically doing 6,000 on any of those. And I've gone to like Bar Harbor, Maine by myself. I went to LA by myself, Route 66. By the time I round both of those out, they're both pretty close to 6,000. And then any of the trips that we've gone together, the longest trip I was supposed to take, I started with 2,000 miles, but it ended up in the hospital in ICU in California.
Wow.
For a whole nother thing, and it was gonna be about 10,000 miles, because I was gonna come all the way down and go through Death Valley and then come all the way across, and I didn't make it that far. So that was an event.
Yeah,
Wow.
sounds like it.
Yep. So the bike didn't break down. I broke down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was the youngest one on the trip. I was the
Go figure.
Yep. So, but those have been the days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, Scott, you're an interesting guy. Like, you're always crafting something. Like, we're at bike night one night, and Scott comes up and he's like, check out my glove.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he pulls out a glove, and it's like, I just put this together. And I was like,
Well-
what do you got? Yeah, left one? And he's like, yeah, I got the left one. I was like,
Well,
what-
here's
you got a right one?
Here's the days.
Oh wow. This is a wallet. Oh wow.
Oh,
Like
wow.
It's a
It's a
whole
chain.
It's a whole leather chain, and
It's
I
a
tried
chain.
to make it look like it was
That's cool.
like it's greased, like it came,
Yeah.
off the bike and
Weathered,
it was greased,
yeah.
and weathered. So that was.
So you
Got
just-
some patina on it.
I did 2 of them this weekend. I
That's
finished this
nice.
one today. So,
So you just decide that you're going to make something, and you just make it.
Yep.
You just got
Right,
some-
exactly. I mean, most of the time, so when I first got into bikes, leather is a big deal, and it's the most protective stuff. And
Yeah.
I had a leather maker. I had a guy who was like a personal guy. I'd take stuff to, and he would make it or change it, or I'd buy stuff at, a store that didn't fit, and then I'd take it to him, and he'd redo the stuff. And something happened to him. He died, retired, something, and then I couldn't find anybody to work on stuff. I love Gator, and I want to work on a lot of Gator, and so I was doing stuff with Gator.
Okay.
And I tried to call. There's a guy in Florida who works with Gator a lot. He wouldn't do any of the stuff I wanted him to do. So I just eventually just said, well, I'm going to do it. Then I'll just learn and I'll just do it. So I've been spending about 6 or 7 years now making my own stuff.
Wow.
And then I get another text.
Yeah.
Here's the right one.
Yeah, I still don't have an exact pair of the gloves. I have
They didn't match. I was like,
Right.
did you make this out of different leather?
Stop.
So I'm trying versions. I'm on my 4th version, and I'm learning how to make them. Getting the thumb right, everything is hard work.
That's so cool.
So I kept making a left, and then I made a right, and then I make a left, then I make a right. So I have no matching set.
I just remember you were really upset because the middle finger hole was big as hell.
Yep.
And like, you're like, oh, I got to get this down to size. The thing, it's like, I don't think, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to make a glove.
Yeah.
I was going to make a glove today or
So-
a chain.
I mean, I do have a reason. So I bought these boots not the ones that I'm wearing. I was in Texas, and I saw these snapping turtle boots. Mm-hmm. And so there's only one company in the entire country that makes snapping turtle leather, and these boots are amazing. They're absolutely beautiful.
Snapping turtle boots.
Yes, they look a little bit like Gator on the back,
Yeah.
except instead of multiple bridges on the back, there's one, and it's one bigger hump that goes straight down the middle. And
Oh,
I
that
wanted to
makes-
make
yeah, I know what
gloves.
you're saying.
I want gloves that have a middle of the back that goes straight down that match
Yeah.
my boots.
Yeah. And your jacket.
Yeah. Well, my jacket is Gator.
It is Gator, right?
Yes.
It has like the 3.
Yep.
So how far are you out? We got the prototype. How far are we out from
I'm two
the
versions away from a finished one.
snapping turtle?
Yeah, I'm 2 versions away. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I went and bought all new leather yesterday, and I'm testing a new version.
Where do you buy leather? Is that the leather shop?
So Tandy's still around. I don't know if you remember Tandy as a kid. All the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. They would do like the little leather kit and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Tandy has stores all over the country. So if you want to touch the leather, it's a good store to go to. If you really want real stuff, you've got to order it. So, but you've got to know your width, your length, the kind. So if I'm testing stuff or just making stuff, I just buy affordable stuff. And so some of the stuff I've made stuff is just out of junk leather.
So do you have like a sewing machine?
Oh yeah, I have
It's an
multiple.
industrial?
I have three sewing
3
machines.
sewing machines?
Yeah, I have a special leather sewing machine that's a hand crank. You do it all by hand. And then I have 2 others, one for like sewing patches on jackets and stuff like that. And then I have a third
to
sewing
know.
machine. Yeah.
I'm going to bring my patches over.
Yep. So I'm sewing. I mean, I've had to go through a whole set of skills to learn all these things because none of these are my field. None of those are my trades.
No.
That's insane.
So-
It's just hobbies.
Right, it's everything, but everything from cutting leather, skiving, dyeing it, there's a whole pile of stuff, and then sewing, and then 3D printing to go with it because
Right.
you make your molds.
Yeah.
So I print 3D printing stuff to make the mold that I'm going to mold the leather on.
That's crazy.
So you need the apocalypse to happen like in the next 15
Why?
years. Because
No.
he's ready. He's like, I'm
I'm
gonna make
ready. I'm
clothes.
ready. Yeah.
But how is he going to use the machinery?
He's got a hand crank.
I do have a
Oh,
hand crank for the
that's
leather,
true.
but I do most of my stitchings by hand, almost all of it.
Really?
Now. Yeah, I do. Unless I'm going to do like a really thick piece, like if you're going to do like a saddle kind of leather, like you use them for gun holsters and things like that, you need something that can puncture
Yeah.
that. And not, so the hand one will do that.
Yeah.
So I can go through like 3-inch leather. But otherwise, I punch everything by hand and then I sew it all.
Nice.
Yeah, so for sure. He's on the apocalypse team.
Yeah.
Right? Gotta be.
I learned how to sew back in the day. My mom had a sewing machine, and I did that, and probably don't know how to do it anymore. But I loved hand sewing. Like I would hand sew clothes for my dolls. It was fun.
I can put a button on.
I can put a button on too. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't put a zipper on though.
Nah, I can't.
I could do a
that.
zipper. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And where do you find the time to do all these hobbies in addition to your normal job? I'm sure you
So-
have an 8 to 5.
So I've owned businesses. This is I've had 4 different businesses over the last 30. Like I started really early. My first business I opened when I was about 23 years old.
Okay.
So as I've become higher end, I've made more time off for myself as the companies have produced more, and now I have cloned myself efficiently. And so I have a kind of a second in command who's taken over most of the work. So I have a little more time so that I can manage the business and the money and things like that.
That's what I'm talking about.
And he's like, I'm gonna fill that up with gloves.
Yeah, right. Gloves and leather and other cool stuff I can make. And
I know. You make. He's showing me knives. He's got all these knives that sword collection. I mean, he speaks my language. I mean,
Yep.
again, obviously,
Yeah.
I got
Yep.
the bad boy up there. But,
Yep. I've made a knife or two. My son's made a few knives. So we kind of go down that path. Like whatever's new, we'll just do it. We'll just
Yeah.
make one. So
so knives,
Right.
leather goods, right? Engineering.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And Jessica's doing the food, right? She got
roller
the food
skating
going on.
But
He's a-
I'm actually the cook.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm actually the real cook. Actually, I'm the one who cooks most of the meals.
Dang.
I do most of the.
So she
cooking.
just sits there and look pretty.
And so when I was a kid in high school, I worked at the Euro Wrap,
Yeah.
and they have those big giant commercial hibachi grills that they cook everything on.
Yummy.
And when we got married, I ordered one and I had it delivered in a crate. And so I slapped it down in the middle of the island. And between us, we have 6 kids. So whenever there's an event, there's like 13 people there.
Wow.
So that's the only thing we can cook on that can cook that much food.
Yeah.
So I'm in the middle of the island, making volcanoes with the onions.
Whipping
and,
up some
Yeah,
hibachi.
right.
Of
Yep.
course
That's
you are.
awesome.
Yep,
Of course,
whatever,
of
whatever
course
they
you are.
want. Flick the shrimp into somebody's mouth and, little chef hat.
Spin around on your fingers.
Yeah.
And stuff, yeah.
No, I got the chef hat too.
Catch it with the hat.
Couple of aprons.
That's awesome.
Whatever's necessary, I'll do it.
Well, we mentioned engineering. So you're an engineer.
So I'm a computer forensics expert. That is my job.
That's your job.
And so this is a rendition on the 4th company that I started in around 2000. So now it's been about 23, 22 years I've been a computer forensics expert. And at the same time, I started a data recovery company, and I learned how to create a niche market that is how to repair the drives and rebuild them and also use them for forensics capability. So, the FBI runs into a building, somebody takes a laptop, throws it down the ground, stomps on it. I can take the drive apart as long as the platters aren't damaged and rebuild the drive from the platters. And so I wrote 2 books on how to do this, and it became very popular, so I wrote a class to go with it. And then for the last 14, 15 years, I taught 3-letter agencies all over the world. So I've been to a pile of countries as a speaker to a trainer, teaching classes and teaching them how to rebuild drives and get this stuff working. Now, independent people can come to the class. It doesn't have to be law enforcement. A lot of times what I do is I would rent a hotel and rent a conference room, and I would post it, and whoever wanted to buy in. So IRS could buy 2 seats, 3 seats, and then a whole bunch of other people can buy them. And then sometimes I would get government contracts would have me come to their office
Okay.
and then just teach them. So really over the last 20 years, that's been the primary thing, is
Wow.
focusing on that side of rebuilding and getting the technology working again. So And then I testify in court, so I've testified about 40 times.
What a good job.
I know.
I always think about Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm the editor for Vogue. He's like, what a good job.
So you just quote movies now. What a good job. What a great
good job.
What a great day.
That's
Oh, what a lovely day.
But no, I mean, that's obviously fascinating work. You must have had crazy experiences in some of the cases that you've had to deal with over the years.
Yep, I've seen a lot of things. And every once in a while, when I think there can't be any more, I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Then I get something else weird that sometimes people don't want to talk about. But
Yeah.
What's the weirdest one? Or people want to knock our door down? Is this room bugged already?
yeah, no, we're not in that category. If anybody's coming after you, it's the IRS.
Well, I don't want to piss them off either.
I'm just saying that's the way things are going. So, yeah, no. I mean, I've had some crazy ones, and some of the ones like your wife wants to investigate her husband, and then she doesn't understand why she's not paying attention to him, and then you find animals or something like that. Just terrible. God. Yeah, just terrible things that are illegal. That
Holy cow!
People get arrested for, and things happen too. Yep. So, I mean, because you got to imagine if you're a computer forensic expert, and I do a lot of criminal cases.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So most of mine are what is a crime. I mean, it's unfortunately, it's child porn and animal embezzlement, just a variety of things like that. So, and even so, I take care of it from, typically I'm hired by the defense. Most of the time I'm hired by the defense. But at the same time, I have the training classes that I teach all of the law enforcement what I'm going to do.
Right.
So they get to learn that side of it as well. So I kind of have both of it. And a lot of times I'll have people on the other side that I know or took my class or have my certification that is testifying in the same case. So
you're on the defense, right? And obviously you probably can't talk about specific cases, but you're on the defense and you're like, oh, this guy's accused of animal stuff, bestiality, right? And then you go to the dad and say, oh, there's bestiality. Case closed, right?
So there's a lot of issues whenever you're saying, because that's what,
how can you
if
be
it's
on the
child porn or anything else. Well, so the issue is a lot of times has to do with, for instance, child porn is knowingly possessed. And so the issue becomes, if you're in a house where there might be 40 people and people are coming and going, and you'd be surprised at how many, households have a lot of visitors, and that we've actually saw other people using the computer at the same time. So then they get caught and their computer gets caught, but it might not be them. And there's been like teachers and stuff that actually their computer had child porn on it, but not because of them. It was because the computer was repurposed, and I could prove that it wasn't even this teacher that porn came from, that it came from another teacher. So, and one of the biggest cases I worked on is the Ross Harris trial, which is the one who the baby died in the hot car at Home Depot. And so I worked on that case, and I've been on Dateline. I've been on a couple of things with that and testified in court on that one. And I believe he's innocent. What they're accusing him of that component was that he intentionally killed his kid, that he murdered his child. And so he had like 131 devices. So that's a lot of stuff to look at. He is a web developer, so I saw a lot of equipment and went through everything. And so, there's a lot of other things in the case that aren't necessarily relevant to this component, but I didn't believe that was his intent. He didn't intend to kill his child, basically looking at things. There were other things in the case that led me to believe that wasn't what was going on.
Wow.
And that it was neglect or other issues from that standpoint, not specifically what he was charged with. So,
wow.
So fascinating.
It's interesting. I'm not trying to make light of any of that, but something struck me one day. I was driving back from Nashville to Atlanta. So I was in Tennessee. And as I was driving, I saw one of those little signs over the road that have like the yellow lettering. And it said, don't forget to check for baby. And then I was like, don't forget to check for baby. What does that mean? So I got home, I Googled it. And apparently there's a massive problem with people forgetting their children in the back seat. and they have a whole campaign around it.
Yeah, it's like
And-
40 deaths a year or something.
And what was it's interesting because you're reading through the materials, and the thing that, and again, I'm not trying to make light, but this is the thing that stuck out the most to me
Yeah.
was the advice they gave. Put something important in your back seat, like your phone,
Right.
Yeah.
not the
Like
baby.
your baby's not important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there has been quite a movement to do something about the weight of the seat in the vehicle. So, and to try to have an alarm based on that.
Yeah.
And that you could have a Bluetooth alarm on your phone, like you have like an AirTag that says you left something in the car, and there's still a weight
Right.
that is registered. Because most cars now, even for the back seat, for passengers, for seatbelts, register a weight for
They
the
do.
person
They
being
do.
in them.
I didn't realize that until
Yeah.
I got into like a new, I think it was like a Camry or something, and I didn't have my seatbelt on, and it was beeping, and I'm not used to that being in the back seat.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like there could be a baby setting for the car, and that
Yeah.
if you have a child seat in the back car and you turn that on, most people leave it there. They don't take it out very often. So if
True.
you turned it on and said, baby, and then every time you get out of the car, like it beeps for your keys, it could beep for the baby.
yeah,
Hi, reminder. You know that thing you carried for 9 months and pushed out of your body?
Well, now
it's in the back seat.
some of these deaths aren't because some of them it's grandmas who have picked up the kids and taken them, and maybe in this case the dad, not the mom.
I hear ya.
But there's a lot of distractions, and you'd be surprised at how often the distraction is the phone, and then all of a sudden there's another emergency, and you're in. I mean, how many times have changed? Like you move to a new house, and then you end up driving towards the old house before you realize,
I got you.
and that's what
Yeah.
happens.
just pattern,
Yeah.
just having.
Well, we don't need weights. We need AI. We need to get ChatGPT on this. I'm sure.
Right,
I'm
the
sure
cars are gonna have a little dash. Like
Yeah.
I guess Teslas could do it. You could have the little dash,
Yeah.
and ChatGPT could pop up and be
Can't even
like,
open the door.
"Today, you are going to get your kid in the back seat."
Yeah.
I know,
Hi. Don't forget to check for baby, dumbass.
but don't they have like cameras that you can put in your car and all like to watch your kid while you're driving, or like mirrors? I know that
It sounds
back in the
terrible.
day they had mirrors where you would have it like, I don't know, like have it where you can
Oh,
see
like
the
a mirror
baby.
from your. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hanging from your big mirror, you'd have like
Yeah.
a really big one.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
your distractions are still the same,
I
and
know.
then
They're
you
the
don't
That's true.
see it. It's as Chuck would say, it's the red light on the back of your helmet that you can buy. That no
That's
one's going to
7
pay
ounce.
attention to you. It's exactly the same thing.
7
They're not going to
ounce
see.
alien looking thing on the back of your helmet. I get it. It's for safety. But
Yes.
no, I think obviously ChatGPT, all that stuff. It's going to be integrated into our cars. It's integrated. It's getting integrated into everything. Obviously, you got Bing's, Bard, or whatever.
So the problem with ChatGPT and all the other stuff right now is that all the data that's loaded into it is old data.
It's old.
Well,
Yeah.
on
Right.
3 was up to 21. I've got Pro, so I got 4.
Oh, you've got
Yeah.
Pro.
So it's like a year newer data, I guess.
Right. But it needs to learn, right?
1
It
year.
still does.
As you
yeah.
process the stuff, it still needs to learn and correct its mistakes in the process.
It makes
So
a
we're
lot of
still a
mistakes.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually got to do a presentation on ChatGPT tomorrow, so I've been fascinated with it ever since it came out. I'll tell you what it feels like to me. It's all right. And I'm old enough, and I think we're all old enough to remember when the internet became a thing, right? Well, let me be clear. When American Online became a thing, you got mail.
Yeah.
I remember when that came out, and we didn't know what the internet was, what it was for. It was like, let's go to some chat rooms and chat up some strangers
So
and talk
true.
about movies and stuff. We weren't Googling. There was no such thing as Google. You had to know the
Right.
exact web address or whatever.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was so transformative in my life when America Online came out. And then eventually you get on to Netscape or
Yeah.
all the myriad of ones that you could get. ChatGPT. So they say the internet was our first type 1 civilization creation. That's, if you're on the scale of civilizations, that's what I've heard. It's the first type 1. What is it? Michio Kaku said that?
Michio Kaku. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I can't say it. It's a name that I struggle to pronounce, having grown up in South Carolina.
I mean, yeah.
So he says that it's the first type 1 creation that we've had, and ChatGPT is the second. And I kind of see where he's going, because whenever you use it, his thing is it feels like it's written by a human. Well, it was. So basically
Yeah.
what it does is it goes out and it curates from the internet these different things. Like we even took something that it wrote the other day and put it into Boolean search, and it pulled up an article that had that exact phrase in it. So it'll go out and retranslate all of this information and try to present it to you. And I love the fact, like, I can ask it, teach me like I'm a 5-year-old, and it'll like, okay,
Break it down.
Imagine I'm a robot. It just cracks me up. But I think it's that transformative. We're seeing it in everything. Everybody's talking about it. It's going to be integrated into all of our stuff.
Yeah.
What I worry about, and this, I'm curious to your opinion on this. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tirade here, but I'm curious of your opinion of this. Is when I was younger, my grandmother would get calls from scammers. They're like, "Hey, I'm your grandson. I'm stuck in Tahiti. I need $5,000." And she'd be like, "You don't sound like my grandson," and hang up. But what if they do sound like your grandson?
Well,
because
we already have that. It's already happened.
and now you're flipping it to FaceTime. I watched an interview with Joe Rogan and Trump, and they've never met.
Right.
Literal video interview of the two of them, and it sounds just like them.
Yep. I mean, we've had, even just in the last couple of months, we've had the same phone call you're talking about, where someone has called that said, "I need money, ransom, blah, blah, blah," and it's my daughter screaming in the background and things like that. So it's already happened.
Holy cow.
And so they've already been able to produce that. They can produce the face. So, there's a huge number of artificial intelligence faces that are out there right now also. I mean, eventually it's all going to be that way. But, on the internet side, weirdly, I had already started. My first company was a managed IT company, and I started it in the early 90s prior to what you know as the internet is 1993,
Right.
when the World Wide Web, when Tim Berners-Lee wrote the browser that allows you to actually do web browsing and have HTML and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I already had a company. I was already actually doing managed IT services and setting up servers when technically we all started plugging in the internet. And so I set up some of the first mail servers and some of the first web servers and some of the first. So it was transformative. It would completely change the business as a whole and actually
100%.
changed my monetary income from a standpoint. Now it's not just an isolated server, or, it's kind of like accounting. They're in their own little corner and nobody messes with them.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you feel right now. That's how the whole world was before.
Right.
Now everybody's plugged in and they're all doing everything. So it really changed my business from that perspective also, and income.
Negative or a positive?
Positive. I
Good.
mean, because now everybody's growing, plugging everything in everywhere. So
True.
now it's alive.
Yeah.
And so basically there's always something new that's always added to it. But it was probably pretty close to the same from like 96 to about 2004, I would say. There was just different versions of software, different things that were happening. But for the most part, it was all basically the same.
So I tried the news groups and all that stuff early before.
They still exist.
I know, it's just too much work. I had to type in codes and all kinds of nonsense, and then the experience was very, just
Basic.
yeah. And
Yeah.
once the GUI got laid over,
So surprisingly, most of all that stuff that's left that used to exist in some of the IRCs and other things is kind of the direction that some of the stuff goes when it goes to darknet, when they start saying darknet. A lot of it was, we used to have Gopher. We used to have a bunch of stuff that you had to use to get access to get files, because you couldn't get them. You couldn't just go to a website and download them.
Yeah.
And basically it's kind of like those renditions that are just running in a different protocol so that you can get access to them. And so the old world still exists. It's just someplace else.
yeah.
Underground.
Yep.
It's black market.
Well, Scott, man, I really enjoyed having you on. Is there anything that you want to plug? I mean, do you still do a podcast, social media, any of that stuff?
So for my class, I had done like 3 years. I did a podcast. I did a radio show for 3 years, a monthly radio show and stuff like that. I don't really plug it that way anymore. I don't really need to. I'm pretty well known. If anybody's looking for anything, they know where to go. But I have a YouTube channel that's all about rebuilding hard drives, and actually, it's not fluff. I actually put complete classes up and teach people how to do the whole thing.
Wow.
So if you just search Scott A. Moulton, then you'll find it, or just Scott Moulton in data recovery or forensics, you'll find it.
Yeah. So when's your ride? Like your 30-day ride? Is that coming
So,
up?
so this year, Terry is telling me that he can't do it this year. He has some other problems. So Jessica and I have chosen this year we're going to go to Wisconsin to Indian Bike Week instead.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to, and actually there's a couple of Litas that are going to go, I think, at the same time.
Nancy.
And we're all going to tow bikes for that.
Okay.
So we're all going to like meet together and tow and go. And they have like little RVs you can just rent, and they put it there for you. You just pull up and park, and then bam, you're in your house.
Hell yeah.
So
That sounds like so much fun. So Wisconsin.
Yep.
When is this? Summer?
it's August like 9th through 20th or something.
So right
like
after
that.
Sturgis.
Yes, it's after Sturgis. Technically,
Nice.
it's after Sturgis.
When a Harley guy shows up, like if 2 Harley riders show up to Indian Bike Week, what happens?
They let them. They let them come.
No problems?
I mean, there are tickets. You buy. It's not like Sturgis where there's no tickets.
Okay.
Or Bike Week in
Open to
Daytona where
all.
there's no tickets.
Sturgis is kind of a freedom thing, you know. We're not
Yeah, I mean,
exclusive.
trust me, you spend the
We don't
money.
try to
You
like
just
be
don't
all
buy a
high
ticket.
and mighty.
Right.
Oh, you got to get a ticket to come to the Indian Bike Week.
Yeah, right. There is a ticket.
Stop it
There
right
is
now.
a ticket for Indian Bike Week. You do have to get on the campgrounds and do the whole thing. It's about 400 people, I think, right now.
That's cool.
But and they do bring in, so, you know, they bring a lot of like the stars from Sons of Anarchy, stuff like that, and they apparently are coming in Danny Trejo or something like so.
I never watched that show.
It was a great show.
I never
It was
watched
pretty
You know
good.
Danny Trejo.
I know who Dan Trejo is,
Right.
but I know him more like from,
El Machete.
yeah.
Yeah, Machete. Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Desperado
Yeah.
was like one of the first times I saw him.
Yeah.
But,
And he has a really cool taco bar in Cali.
does he?
Yeah. I forget the name of it, but yeah.
That guy, what a career that guy had.
Yep. Well, I mean, we've never been to Indian Bike Week, and we just thought it'd be kind of neat.
That
so
sounds
we
like
don't
a
know
lot
if we'll
of
do. I
That
mean,
does sound fun.
there never was one before, so
I
mean,
know.
we're barely there. It's only the 4th year I think they've had it.
All
So.
right.
Yeah,
you guys will get there eventually.
I've been to Bike Week.
You'll eventually you'll eventually be on the same level. It's you'll get there one day.
Right. I know.
Are you doing the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride Sunday?
No, I'm not doing it. So, and I'm not sure if this is really an issue. They had an issue a couple of years ago where one of the bikes got free and like ran into the crowd and
It's
hurt
a-
somebody.
Yeah, we know.
8 years ago.
We actually
Okay.
8 years ago.
We weren't there for that, but we know some of the people involved. It was a big to do.
Yeah, it was a
and
big
they-
to do.
Yeah, they actually didn't have the ride for several years because of
Yeah.
it.
But I
Yeah.
don't think they're doing like the stunt show and all that. It's just going
Right.
to be a
No,
solid ride.
unfortunately, it will be me and Jessica are camping up in Tennessee this
Oh,
weekend.
that's not
That sounds
unfortunate. That sounds awesome.
amazing. Except we're going to miss you at our camp
Yes, that's
because you could have a
I'm
wedding
gonna
or
miss that
something.
too. Yeah, that's a wedding.
Miss Z's getting a Moto Guzzi for the weekend.
Yeah, I'm actually picking up the Moto Guzzi on Friday to test ride it, do some content.
Okay.
It's going to be cool.
It's not the guy who was at the because he brought a Moto Guzzi last week when there was the Indian event on International Women's
Women's Day?
Riding Day.
Yeah.
Is
no,
it that? It's not that
him.
one.
No.
Because he had some engine problems that day.
Oh,
I
Oh,
was just
man.
gonna say.
No, it's a new one.
Scott, if it's not an Indian, it has engine problems
Yeah,
all the time.
when he
right?
was leaving,
And
like,
if it's
pieces-
not an Indian, it's going to just be a terrible bike.
I'm
We-
not saying that Indians don't have their problems. I'm just saying I haven't had them yet.
You know, I got to give you shit, bro.
You know, when
Yeah,
you have
right.
an issue, Scott, you know who the first one is going to be to say something.
Yeah,
That's right.
I know it
Right.
will happen. I mean, my bike is getting older, and so you know,
Traded in before.
if
it
every time you
happens.
need a tire warranty, you buy a new bike,
right.
then you know, I'm
Then
not
you don't
scheduling
have
my
a-
tire warranties with my bike. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of am.
That's true. No, you're not.
Yeah,
This is the last-
you're pretty close.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
But
and I do have a friend that does. He does schedule his purchases when the tire warranties are going to run out.
I actually think we're going to keep these bikes for a little while, though.
yeah, honestly, I am still anxiously, patiently waiting on our builds. I just saw paint. The base coat just went on, and I don't think I'm going to build another bike. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to
I
get
mean, it's
it.
a lot of work and it's a lot of waiting, and you've been like 5 months, 6 months in,
Yes.
right? So
Started
Yes.
we started talking about it
January.
in December, started
Yeah.
actually the process in January.
Yeah, yeah.
right.
So we're
it's,
5 months in.
It's drawn out. See, I work on mine, so it's right there when I'm doing it.
Congratulations. one day when I grow up, I'll clone myself and have someone run my companies so that I can just shit around with leather all day.
Right, I know. It's a good thing. I'm not
It
letting
is.
them make any money on like I could spend 10 minutes in work and make all the money I'm going to spend on whatever
Right.
I've made. So
Yeah.
on the keychain, but that's the way it goes.
That's awesome. Well, it was really nice having you on the
Well,
show.
thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers, brother. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming. Yeah, there you go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate it.
And thank you, young Sharon,
Thank you,
for
Sharon,
your
producer
awesome
Miss Sharon.
production skills.
By the way, everybody, I'm super excited. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a special podcast with a good friend of ours. For those that don't know, we've actually done a podcast before. We did about 100 episodes with a good friend of ours that was a comedian. His name is
Yes.
Steve, and he's going to come back on the show. He's actually in Maryland now,
I think Virginia.
somewhere up there near
Yeah.
DC. So he's going to have to come in remote, but we're going to have a special Chuck and Z episode of Prime Time Chuckles, which is what used to be the name of our show. And
Our own show.
You'll get to see Zahara. You'll get to hear Z's old intro. Can you do it for
You're
us? real
gonna
quick?
pull it up?
Oh yeah,
I don't actually remember it. I
It's-
think it's. No, I don't remember
yeah.
it.
It's
It's Primetime Chuck.
Prime Time Chuckles with
With
Steve,
Chuck, and Z. But it sounded a little bit better than that.
Yeah, she did a great job. But no, again, thank you guys. Thank you, Scott. Truly appreciate it.
Yes.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be
Please.
back next week. Going to New York, so we'll have to do it early in. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
Can't
we're going to
wait.
New
It's gonna
York
be so much
City, taking the 21-year-old out for his 21st birthday
Must be nice.
for Memorial Day weekend. So that's going to be fun.
What must that be like?
We're going to catch a Yankees game, maybe do a Broadway show,
Think so.
eat some good food.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, bye. Bye. Everybody.